My name is Colleen, and this is my kitchen. I've struggled with my weight my entire life. After trying every diet in the book without any success, I came to the realization that diets don't work. I started my journey in January 2010 at a size 26W, weighing just over 300 pounds. By July 2011, I had lost over 120 pounds and reached my goal of a size 12, no W. And I have kept the weight off ever since. What's my secret? Eating healthy and moving more. Now I'm here to show you how you can make food that is healthy and delicious and lose weight just like I have. Because if I can do it, you can too.
Hello and welcome back to my kitchen. I have a really fantastic recipe for you tonight. I'm really excited about it. I hope you're going to like it as much as I do. It's a whiskey ginger steak and farro salad. And you might have seen a lot of recipes out there for farro. It's a grain, it's a little bit like barley, and it's really popular. I've seen it in a lot of dishes this time of year, and so I've been wanting to experiment with it myself, and I came up with this dish, and I hope you like it as much as I do. We're going to start with our marinade, and for the marinade we're going to start with whiskey, the good stuff. We're going to do 1/4 cup, which is equal to 2 shots of whiskey. Now I'm using an Irish whiskey. I was kind of inspired by my recent trip to Ireland, but you could use an American whiskey or Canadian whiskey as well, or even a Scottish whiskey. Just make sure that you use a quality whiskey, something that you would also sip without having to mix a whole bunch of stuff in. And the reason for that is because we're using so much of it. We're using 1/4 cup. Half is going to go into the dressing, half will go into that marinade. But it's going to add a lot of flavor to the dish. So if you get, there's an American whiskey that is not very good, but it's very popular. You see it on a lot of restaurant menus. I absolutely hate it. It doesn't taste good. And so you want a whiskey that is going to lend a really good quality flavor to the dish. So whatever you use 1/4 cup. And then to that we're going to add 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. And you want to use the extra virgin olive oil in this because half of this is going to turn into our dressing, our salad dressing. And so you want to, you want an olive oil that's a little lighter, a little bit fruitier. Okay, let's add a pinch of coarse sea salt, good crank of freshly ground black pepper. Then I have our ginger here, and this is fresh ginger root, and it's 1 ounce of fresh ginger root, and I'm going to shred the whole thing. You don't need to peel it because we're not going to actually use the pulp. We're going for the juice of the ginger. So I'm going to shred it on a fine grate here. Once you have that ginger root shredded, you want to scoop it all up, all this pulp. It's going to give you roughly, I'd say about a tablespoon, maybe a tablespoon and a half of pulp here. And we're going to take it in our hands and just squeeze it in. Look at all that juice that falls out in there. That's what you want. You want that ginger juice. And then the pulp that's left over, just discard it. We're not going to use it. Now, if you've ever had a whiskey ginger in a bar, or made one yourself for that matter, you'll know that they are fantastic with a twist of lime. So that's the next thing that we're going to add, and that's the juice of 1 lime. And that is it. Now all I have to do is whisk that up. And I'm going to take half of this mixture and I'm going to pour it into, I'm using just a resealable plastic bag. You could also use a shallow dish. That's roughly half. And then I have And then I have a 1.25 pounds of flank steak here that I have already trimmed the fat off. And I always buy it, even though one serving is 4 ounces, so that's 1 pound, this is gonna dry out. So the serving size is actually measured by the cooked meat, not by the raw meat. So when you're getting the raw meat, it's okay to buy it a little bit over what your standard serving size would be. So I've got 1.25 pounds of flank steak here. I've trimmed it of any visible fat. I'm gonna throw it in this bag. And now I'm gonna let it marinate. I like to let this marinate overnight. You want it at least, I'd say 2 hours to really let those flavors penetrate, but overnight is the best. It'll be absolutely delicious. Our steak has been marinating overnight, so now it's really simple, really easy to whip up the rest of this meal. It's gonna be done in about 15, maybe 20 minutes. And so this is a great weeknight meal because I just marinate the steak the night before, then I come home from work the next day and whip it up. It's really easy. So now what I'm going to do is I'm heating my grill pan. Now you can absolutely use an outdoor grill. I live in an urban area and I'm a little bit nervous about filming in my backyard with all my neighbors watching. So I have an indoor grill pan that I'm using with nice deep ridges, but you can certainly use a barbecue for this as well. I'm heating it on medium-high, and then I have a pan that I filled with water that I'm going to bring to a boil. I'm going to add a little bit of sea salt to it, and that's what we're going to cook our farro in. So our pan that we're heating on high here first, I do want to go ahead and spray it with just a little bit of olive oil, and that's just going to help keep it from sticking. So once I have that sprayed up, I'm just going to take my tongs and grab that fillet out of that bag and put it right in my pan. Just like that. So now I want to let it cook about, I'd say roughly 5 to 7 minutes each side, depending on how well you like your steak done. If you like your steak rare, cook it for a little less. If you like it well done, cook it for a little bit more. Once the water comes to a boil, I'm going to add 3/4 cup of farro, and that needs to boil for about 10 minutes. I'm using a quick cooking farro. Make sure to look at the directions on your package. Once it's boiled up, I'm just going to strain it and rinse it with cold water. While that farro cooks up, let's go ahead and get the rest of our ingredients prepped so that we can be ready for that next step. I have here 1 pound of fresh asparagus. Asparagus is just fantastic this time of year. It's nice and fresh. And I'm going to trim off the bottom 1 inch of the stems. And then I'm going to cut these remaining stalks into thirds. Thirds or fourths, depending on how big they are. I want about 1.5 inch, 2-inch pieces here. And then once I have those cut, I'm going to push those to the side of my cutting board, because next up I have a red onion, and I only need half of this red onion. Let's take half of it here, trim off the ends, take off that outer layer. And what I'm going to do is take that half, cut it in half again, so I've got 2/4, and then I'm going to slice it as thinly as I possibly can with this knife. Just like that. Once the steak is cooked up, you want to remove it from the grill, let it sit for about 5 minutes to let all of those great juices settle. But I'm going to keep my pan on because in all that residue, I'm going to add that onion and asparagus that we cut up before. And we're just going to let that saute for about 5 minutes. It's going to saute in those juices that the meat was cooking in and that it gave off. So it's going to be absolutely delicious. In about 5 minutes it'll be nice and tender, and we'll finish up our salad. Finishing up our whiskey ginger steak and farro salad, what we're going to do is go ahead and take those vegetables that we sauteed up. This pan is very heavy. And add them right to a bowl with that farro, which we cooked up, and it's now drained and rinsed and ready to go. So add that to the farro, and then remember we had this leftover marinade that we let sit aside. And I'm going to go ahead and sprinkle that right over the top and give that a good toss. So then to serve this up, I have 4 ounces total of arugula. For 1 ounce per person. This recipe serves 4 people. And so I have 1 ounce of arugula here. I'm just going to top it with some of this farro and asparagus and red onion that we cooked up and tossed in this nice dressing. And then we want to add a couple slices of that steak. Depending on how thin you slice the steak, it's roughly 3 to 4 slices per person. Just like that. How beautiful is that? So there we go, whiskey ginger steak and farro salad. I hope that you give this a try. It is so, so good and good for you and healthy, lifestyle friendly. So I hope you give this a try. I will see you next time in my kitchen.